Thank you for the opportunity to present at the 6th Young Surveyors Conference. Today I'm going to talk about soft skills. Why should you care about soft skills? What are soft skills? When I was back in college and graduate schools, this terminology wasn't even around. But over the past few decades, I have learned that soft skills can make or break your career. So that's why they're important that we develop them. Here is a list of 13 soft skills that were identified by various employers as being important. If you go through this list, you notice communication is at the top of the list, and it's up there for a reason. Communication can make or break a project. Really effective communication can make things go smoothly, things get done on time, addressing issues right away. But a lack of communication can literally destroy a project. So when you start a project, it's important that you identify what is the best communication methods for the entire team. And it'll be different depending on what types of tasks the individuals are doing. I'm a firm believer in over-communicating. So I send out emails, I'll call people, I'll text. I will use all forms of communication to make sure everybody knows what's going on. Well, another one that's very important is organization. How do you keep your projects organized? Do you use spreadsheets? Do you use a different type of platform? I'm a firm believer in Excel. I run my life by Excel. I run my kids' life by Excel. But through that program, I can put in dates, what needs to be done, I can put in budgets, and it helps me look at something quickly and understand where the project is at. The fun parts of our soft skills are critical thinking and creativity. When I start a big project, I'll bring my team together and I'll put together a list of 5 of the top challenges I believe that may occur on the project. And then I will divide up the team into groups, and each group will get one of the challenges, and their job is to come up with solutions to address those challenges. And at the end of the week, we all get together and discuss all these different options and which ones really have an opportunity to make the project go better. So it's a fun way to help develop solutions. Adaptability is an important soft skill because many times if you're out in the field working on a project, things may not go great. Things break. And you need to think on your feet. How can I fix this situation as quickly as possible? Friendly personality. You think, why is that even on this list? But most people want to work with other individuals who are friendly and kind. And so it's good to have that type of behavior. Now, punctuality actually, I think, should be higher up on this list. If you are not punctual, I think it's inconsiderate and rude to the people who you are meeting with. One of my rules is show up early. Be there 15 minutes before the meetings to start. It shows respect to the people who you are meeting with. Cooperation, I would say, is very similar to teamwork. If you're cooperating, you're effectively working with your team. Positive attitudes, you think, why is that on this list? Why do they care about positive attitude? But actually, people want to be around others who have a positive attitude. They don't want to be around people who are always complaining. Individuals want to hear solutions, not about others always the bad things. Humor. This is a fun soft skill, although it's one you have to be very careful with. Inappropriate humor can lead to very bad things. So think twice before you tell a joke. And what is emotional intelligence? And why do we care about it? Emotional intelligence comes down to how do you respond to something in a meeting? Are you too emotional? Do you show inappropriate emotions? Do you show anger and madness? We need to keep our emotions in check, and they need to be appropriate depending on the situation. Here are some statistics related to soft skills and why we should care about them. When SMART did an evaluation, they discovered 77% of employers say that soft skills are just as important as your technical skills. So a lot of us spend time and effort on further developing our technical skills, when in fact, we should probably be spending some time on our soft skills also. And over 80% of Americans think that the employee communication is a key factor in creating trust with employers. So we need communication on both sides. The employee needs to communicate, the employer needs, both teams need to express what's going on. More than 60% of employers say that applicants are not demonstrating sufficient communication in interpersonal skills. So this is a big concern to them. They want us to develop our soft skills and be good at them. 57% of recruiters say that interpersonal skills will grow in demand over the next 5 years. This tells us these types of soft skills are becoming more important as time goes on, and that we need to take this into consideration. An interesting fact is that more than 90% of employees would rather hear bad news than no news. So when things aren't going well in a company, the employees, they want to know what's going on. So if you're a project manager and there are some concerns about a project, reach out to your employees, let them know what's going on, get them involved in the solution. And this last statistic on this slide shows 73.4% of employers want a candidate with strong written communication skills. And they don't mean just putting together facts and data. They want you presenting stuff so the individual reading understands why is the information being presented important. What is the take-home message? That's what we need to get across. Here are the top 10 most in-demand soft skills as identified by Indeed. And at the top of the list is communication, which I'm sure most of you shouldn't be surprised. Next on it is organization, then teamwork. And I said punctuality is important. You know, employers identify this. The people you're meeting identify it. Critical thinking is important. We want to develop critical thinking skills. And you do this by working as a team and listening to each other. You know, when somebody says something that, you know, is not positive about what you're doing, try to listen carefully to what they're saying and say, well, how can I learn from this? How can I make this better? And again, we have friendly personality at the end. It's still important to be friendly when you're in a meeting. So how do you develop your soft skills? First thing you want to do is improve your listening skills. Listen attentively, listen carefully. Lots of times I'll go to a meeting and I'll watch people who are listening to the speaker and they're on their phones or on their computer and they're not listening at all. They're 100 miles away. How can you be actively involved in a project if you're not listening to what the other person is saying? And the other thing is simple talk, straight talking. Don't get up there and start using 5, 6, 8 syllable words to try to impress your audience. That really doesn't work. If you just get the point across in simple words and figures and things, people appreciate that. And you need to speak with enough volume so that they can hear you. Don't be speaking in a soft tone so they're trying to say, what are you saying? What's going on? And the next one bullet talks about nonverbal communication. Most of us think what we're saying is the most important. Well, lots of times what we're saying is important, but people may not be even listening. Really, 7% are listening. 38% is really related to your tone and your inflection. And what's even more surprising, 55% is nonverbal communication. What is the body language that you are presenting? Are you trying to have the audience look at you, hear you, and welcome them? So how you present is as important as what you're saying. Here are the 4 different types of communication that Indeed developed. Let's go through them and figure out which ones that we can improve on and how we can improve on them. The top of the list is verbal, even though we know that most of it's nonverbal, how people are looking at you. You want to be strong and you want to be a confident speaker. But you don't want to be arrogant. Don't get up there in front of your audience and act like you know everything. That is not very inviting, and people don't enjoy that. And listen to their questions. When you get done with your talk, listen to their questions, say them back to them so you make sure you know what they're asking you. Try to avoid filler words. Every few seconds can be extremely annoying and really makes a presentation not interesting. Avoid jargon, avoid acronyms. We are an acronym crazy world today, but a lot of people haven't heard of these acronyms. So make sure your acronyms are ones that people are familiar with or don't use them at all. I've already talked about a little bit about nonverbal. Here, look at how your audience is responding. Be aware of, their nonverbal communication with you. And when you have visual, PowerPoint presentations or figures or tables in a presentation, make sure that the people can see them. There's nothing worse than having somebody give a PowerPoint presentation and you can't even see what the information is presenting on the slides. It's so small that you have no idea what they're presenting. It would have been better not to have anything up there at all. And when you're putting together figures and tables, consider your knowledge base of the audience. Don't put a slide up there that they have no idea what it says or what they're talking about or what the words mean. It needs to be appropriate to the age of your audience as well as the level of knowledge of your audience. And when you're writing, you're preparing technical memos, preparing reports, preparing press releases, make things simple is better. You don't need super long words, and it's better to keep it straightforward and easily read. And remember, keep a file of what you're writing, and what's been effective. And you want your audience to enjoy what you're presenting or looking at. So keep that in mind. Now, I want to give you just a brief demonstration of soft skills, how I used them on a project. I was involved in a project several years ago for a large contaminated site in the southwest of the United States. And it was groundwater that was the drinking water that had been contaminated with chlorinated solvents. And so people were concerned about this. So our group came up with an innovative remediation approach on how to clean up the site. And that was using microbes, bacteria, or bugs as we call them, to clean up the groundwater. They would actually eat the contaminants. So what for this project was we did is we went out and identified all of the stakeholders in the beginning. And this included the people who, the drinking water was impacted. It was the regulatory community, the EPA. It was the mayors, the people in the town that was affected. So we needed to look at all the different groups and make sure that they were part of the process. So we met with them early on and started introducing this concept of using bioremediation and injecting things into the groundwater. So we had several public meetings and we would tell the audience about what we were planning to do and how we were going to do it. And as we went through the presentations, we listened to them and we heard, and we had people in this audience that were from elementary school, children from first grade, up to college, to graduate school, to adults, to working individuals, to grandparents. So the age of the audience was huge, and there was hundreds of them because it was a brand new project. It was something that was happening in their backyard, so they cared about it a lot. But what we didn't do in our public meeting was get up and show figures like the one on this slide here that has a lot of data on it and that they probably wouldn't understand. So instead, when we would present to the public, we would show them much simpler slides that show how the microbes would degrade something, from highly contaminated levels to below drinking water standards. So what was fun about the public meetings is they got actively involved. They had lots of questions. I mean, even the elementary kids would raise their hands and say, what are you injecting into the groundwater? And how is that going to affect us? And then grandparents would say, what do you mean you're injecting bugs? Are you injecting insects? And we're like, no, bugs is another word for microbes. So then again, terminology was really important. So by the end of the project, we had the audience cheering us on, and they were excited to implement this project. And when we did it, we kept them informed as the project went on. So this effective communication allowed us to have lots of really good outcomes. We had better productivity. We had, a good professional image. We had good problem solving. The audience cared about what we were doing, and we had a good relationship. There was a good relationship with our business, with the mayors. And thank you all for the opportunity to present to you. Feel free to email me or call me with any questions.